What makes you think we waited till 7 for that?
A good point. It was just a reason to actually open a beer. What can I say?
He
Fair
meant
enough.
7 a.m., not 7 p.m.
Yeah, well, it's
7
always
a.m.
5 o'clock
somewhere.
sometimes, right? Yeah. Well, first off, I wanted to say thank you guys for taking the time to get on the line once a month for Fire Talks. This is again just kind of a quick monthly infosec conversation, hacking conversation. We'll talk about news, current events. Uh, Yeah, that's kind of the agenda today. We have a speaker that's going to be presenting on an infrastructure framework. I'm kind of excited about seeing Octavian discuss that. Octavian was recently synced up with me via Tinker. Said that Octavian, you should probably hop on and introduce yourself. Hop on the Discord eventually if you can get a chance. But that's how we're going to have you do your presentation today. But in the meantime, we had some really good discussion last month on preparation for these events coming up. Rather than just having an open discussion on whatever the hell we want to talk about, I think it was Wirefall or I forget who exactly, but wanted to try maybe having a discussion topic. I mean, we don't have to spend the whole time on it, but one of the topics we tossed around was information security in the new normal of post COVID-19. We've seen a bunch of news recently about the vaccines being close to being ready for production and distribution. But I think it might be a little too much is not too much, but significantly enough has changed that the world is going to change. So with that, I think our security posture has to change in some degree. Many of us are in information security are already doing these things on a regular, but some of these concepts may be foreign to other people. So I wanted to just kind of open the floor up to the 5 of you on the call today. I'm sure we'll have more trickle in as the day proceeds, but just wanted to pick your brains about some of the tips that you would give to somebody who may not be as computer savvy, and give them some suggestions on how they can maintain a safe posture, a safe presence online.
So I'll tell you the 2 things that I made my parents do, which is interesting because they're both fairly intelligent. They previously worked at IBM before the dot-com bust. But I told them, separate account for administrative and install things, your standard user account, keep those 2 separate, different passwords, complex passwords. And I am slowly getting to the point where I'm getting them to use MFA on at least their email.
Well, that's good. MFA is a huge advancement as far as I'm concerned. It's
Yeah.
good to see that they're using separate accounts. That's actually kind of I like to hear that because I mean that's something that you see in corporate environments, but not so often in regular. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And you can go on YubiKey's website and get those in bulk. So that's what I did for family Christmas last year. Is everybody got a blue YubiKey in their stocking, and I ended up getting 2 for free that way. So
Yeah, the folks at YubiKey are awesome. You ever see that Simpsons episode where Simpson or Homer's going through the free handout line in the grocery store and he keeps wearing different outfits? That was me at RSA because they kept giving out free YubiKeys. So I'd put on a hat, I'd put on sunglasses, I'll walk through that thing like 6 times.
that's hilarious.
Well, I like some of your recommendations. What are some of the other folks that are on the line today? Now that we're working from home, what are some of the security measures that you're doing yourself now that we're all kind of trapped at home? Where are you?
Nothing has changed. Like many of us in this community, that's the old normal is the new normal is the same as the old normal, except there's a pandemic.
Yeah, we were socially distancing before it was cool, right?
Exactly.
But I mean, at the same time, what I'm seeing a lot of is that we're all being home. Is Excuse me, is this affecting your bandwidth in any way? Are you seeing that you're using way more resources? What is your home utilization looking like? I'll be honest, with my kids being home, my wife being home, me working from home, all the streaming services and everything, it's crazy. So I highly recommend, upgrading your bandwidth if you're going to be at home for any period of time.
Yeah, and
Also, yeah.
I would say consider as well. Everybody is enamored with Wi-Fi, but do some hardwiring.
Oh, heck yes.
Significant difference. Yeah.
I knew a guy back when I was working at Studio Movie Grill. He wired his house completely from head to toe. He had Cat 6 in every single room of his house, double dropped. Even his bathroom, he had double drops of Cat 6. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yep. Absolutely. I moved into my house a little over 20 years ago, and that was the first thing I did. It was Cat 5 then, but yeah.
I would do that in this house, but unfortunately, on the second floor, there's like fire blocked walls on the sides of the house, and so you can't run wires down them.
No, yeah, it can be done. It's a lot more difficult, but they do have tools that will actually go through and bore single holes through the 2x4s if they're wood fire blocks.
Well, yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, if you have anybody you recommend, I'm really good at breaking into servers and whatnot, but actually building things, doing manual labor, yeah, I'm not the best guy.
Yeah, I learned it's possible by watching somebody else.
Yes, good call.
I don't know how to do it myself. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to Jason's comment about passwords and password managers. I mean, most of us have been using MFA and password managers, but LastPass was a good one that was recommended. Dashlane is one. KeyPass. I'm sure there's some open source ones that are available. I think I remember Whiskey Neon talking about one a while back. Are there any ones that you particularly, without disclosing too much information, of course, what are the pros and cons of the different password managers have you seen?
I've used for as long as I can remember Password Safe, one word. It was originally designed by Bruce Schneier. It's now maintained by the community. They do have ports for your phones as well. The downside is it's not online and it's not synced. So you have to actually do manual syncing. If you're changing passwords, you have to update that file everywhere.
Yeah.
But one of the positives is that it's not online and not synced.
But then some of the drawbacks is that it's not online and not synced, you know?
It's a drawback. Yeah, exactly. And benefit. Yeah.
But that's actually...
What was that called?
Just password safe, one word. You'll see the icon is a triangle with red triangles in it.
Cool, I found it. Thanks.
On the Many Hats Club, one guy recommended just getting a physical journal and writing your passwords in it.
Hey, Binary Cora, do you mind muting yourself? You're coming in pretty loud.
And Pony, that's definitely not a bad idea. I know people deride folks for writing down their passwords. Not at all a problem if you've got physical security, which you should in your home. The one advantage of the app though is the double click and paste, so you can do really, really strong passwords because nobody wants to enter their 32 character password on every application.
I would also add that a lot of apps, password manager apps, have MFA capabilities, so you can use that as well.
Yeah, the password safe does support YubiKeys, so that's awesome.
One of the password manager that I've actually used three if you consider day job, but I use two for personal use, and the one that I've been using a lot of is Dashlane, and with their premium service, it also includes a VPN as well. Now, the VPN's only as good as the person that's giving it to you, but I've found that that's been a fairly good password manager that up until last week was not being blocked by my corporate employer. So Now that they've restricted access to another password manager, we're resorting back to saving them in the browser, which is
No.
kind of counterintuitive, don't you think?
Can I ask a general ballpark of how many accounts you have in your online safe? Because one of the first problems I had when importing my passwords into an online when I first tried that was that I have probably 800 plus accounts and passwords.
I was going to say, yeah.
So freaking slow, so freaking slow. The local copy was the only thing that the local solution was the only thing that worked for me because online was just so slow.
Well, when I did my export and import, I don't have that many waterfall, but I have probably about half that, 400 or so. And it was fairly quick. I mean, it was just a CSV export import. So it seemed to work pretty well.
The import wasn't bad. It was every time I brought up the password manager, it would just...
Oh, yeah, no. Because it's not having to parse the whole thing at load time. Yeah, the actual running of the password safes is lickety-split. Okay.
It was one of the major ones I tried, but that was probably 5-6 years ago, and it was every time I brought the web page up, it would just be okay. Go make coffee.
Gotcha. Yeah. No. This at least Dashlane and LastPass have been fairly quick to load, and one of the features that, especially since we're talking about post-COVID, keeping our family members safe, the ability to share passwords within these password management tools is really pretty slick in that you can actually share credentials without having to expose them. So the auto logon capacity of the browser will push the password. So I don't know if you're sharing Netflix accounts, you can do that without ever having to show your password off.
Nice.
Let's see. Octavian is still having some problems getting in, so that's unfortunate. But I did have something I wanted to show you all today. Let's see if you can see my webcam. I know it's really small for you guys on Discord, but anybody have an idea what this sucker is? Just looks like a standard USB device. This is a pen testing tool called WHID Cactus. Is anybody familiar with this?
Negative.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what this is. This is like a USB rubber ducky on steroids. What this is capable of doing is once you plug this in, which I'm going to do that now, it basically emulates a keyboard and mouse, just like a rubber ducky would, but it's not going to execute the keystrokes immediately. What it's also doing is broadcasting an SSID that you can then connect to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to share my screen real quick and show you what I'm talking about. Let's see here. All right, so can you all see my screen? The big old desktop here?
Yes, sir.
All right, so what I've got here is my mobile device. Let's see here. So here's my mobile phone. And we're going to connect to the SSID exploit. You can make this whatever you want, but let's see here. Guess I got to give it a little bit of time here.
And you called this a WID cactus?
WHID cactus.
Okay.
All right, since I'm going to plug it directly in instead of through this USB hub, I'm afraid that's causing some issues. There we go. So give it a second. There we go. There's exploit. So we connect to exploit. And then from our mobile device, we can do some pretty nefarious stuff here. So let me jump into Chrome. 192.168.1.1. All right, so here's the UI. It's very, very simple. You can push ducky payloads live, like on the fly, or you can take pre-loaded payloads. There's a bunch of here that are available, but the one that I wanted to showcase is the third one from the bottom. Let's see if this works. So basically all this is going to do is just open up a web browser, and you can see how it immediately went to the command prompt. It goes to Explorer, and it loaded it up on the other page, but I think we all know who that is. So, yeah, I love that picture. But
Hey,
anyway,
can you guys hear me?
what was that?
Oh, sorry. I finally got my mic working. All right. Awesome. Continue.
No worries. I'm assuming that's Octavian.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
What's up, guys?
So yeah, that's all I wanted to show you was the WHID cactus. This would be a lot of fun to demo at DHA, but unfortunately that will have to wait. Yeah, I'm not even going to bother asking, but eventually we'll be demonstrating this live back again at Family Karaoke. But again, thank you, Jason, for posting the GitHub. But yes, this is the WHID cactus. And it's a fun little toy.
Yeah,
Very
once
cool.
the COVID signatures are updated and we all update our antivirus.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome with the interactive capability.
Thank you, Jason, for posting
One of my early social engineering when doing physicals that I used to do was there was a keyboard capture device that actually had Wi-Fi. So would basically put the my surge suppressor hidden Wi-Fi pineapple behind a copier, and then deploy all these Wi-Fi keyboard captures, and you could actually get keyboard capture data through the Wi-Fi pineapple in real time. You couldn't push anything, but it was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the reconnaissance and harvesting aspect, that's really cool.
Yep.
What other sorts of like physical pen testing tools would you use in a physical gig?
I was disappointed that I'd never had to really use the lockpicking skills I've acquired, because all it really took was raking a freaking a desk drawer. Because physical security, they've now taken heed, many of them, to the fact that you shouldn't put your passwords on your monitor. So people move them to their keyboard, then physical security started checking underneath those. So they just lock them in their top drawer. And so you just rake the top drawer and you've got all the passwords. That's fun. I have used the badge cloning with a Proxmart.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've used that in physical security assessments. That's great.
I just got my
I've
hands
never
on
done a
it.
physical security assessment, but I don't know if it's because it's usually time sensitive, right? But I would definitely love to check out the OMG cable. I have one, but I mean for physical security assessment to see, just planting one of them around. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the cable, most likely. But it's just a cable that it's like a USB-C cable that will inject payloads into your computer if it gets connected to your computer. It can also charge your phone. So it's like an iPhone cable.
Yeah, those are pretty darn cool. And didn't Mitnick claim that he invented that? I forget if that was him or not.
Yeah, I talked to my friend. And he told me the guy who created it. Yeah, he said that.
What hasn't he invented?
Apparently, he invented the internet too, right?
He didn't invent. No, he didn't invent.
He didn't invent
internet.
it.
That was Al Gore.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
right,
sorry.
Al
Yes.
Gore. Okay.
Well, I
Yeah,
was.
Mitnick kind of stole this idea.
Yeah, I know he was selling these for a while, but the OMG cables basically are like a USB rubber ducky that facilitate, or they work on an existing like Lightning or USB-C cable, which is pretty crazy. Now,
Another.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say another physical pen test device I used. I like hiding things, make it look very innocuous. Was putting USB chargers with a USB cable on them. That's all normal in conference rooms.
Uh-huh.
But inside the USB charger is a 3G transmitter that basically turns on when it hears sound. So it records whatever is happening at that point in time. Have it call back to a VoIP provider that then basically sends to a remote client and records the conversation.
I've seen some of those with
That's
cameras.
awesome.
The issue I had, this was years ago, the issue I had was at the time it was not really possible to do voice to text reliably, but now you should be able to shunt those audio files straight to voice to text and do keyword searches. It should be really awesome.
One of the new tools that has been given to me that I haven't gotten to play with yet is the Demon Seed. Have y'all heard about this?
No.
No.
Basically, it's make your own OMG cable. I have one right here. This is the whole kit, but it requires some soldering and some heat sinking, and I honestly just don't have the time to work on it. But basically, you're taking a Digispark and using that as like the pass-through for the USB. And yeah, you can embed code into it, and works just like a OMG cable or bad USB or USB rubber duck. So pretty cool.
Any idea what the cost on that one is? I was looking at the OMG cable. That's $120. That's kind of an expensive asset just to abandon on the scene.
I don't really know. You guys know Hacker 213 from the last one, FireTalksOnline I did when we were in Waco. He gave me a lot of these sorts of toys to play with, so I don't actually know. There's a subscription service called HackerBox, and so I think once a month he gets all these cool toys, and if he doesn't get to them, then he gives them to me. But
HackerBox sounds like the ultimate hacker Christmas gift.
You know, it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's a subscription service that sends you gadgets and little things to solder, and I think it's a really cool service. It's funny, working for a SaaS company, I hate anything subscription based, so I refuse to do anything subscription based.
Well, Merry Christmas to me.
Yeah,
Right, I was literally thinking the same thing. I'm definitely getting that for myself for Christmas. You call it the Hacker Box?
Hackerboxes.com. Yeah, it's a monthly subscription service that sends you all a bunch of crap. So
Awesome.
So one of my favorite tools for physical pen testing is actually gift cards. I gave a talk on this a while back, but I turned them into forged ID badges. And so if I can get myself a picture or a copy of a employee ID badge, I replicate it in like Microsoft Publisher or some kind of photo editor or whatever, print it out, tape it to the gift card, and laminate it. And I've gotten through multiple police officers with something like that.
Obviously there's no barcode scanning, right? Or I'm sorry,
no
magnetic stripe scanning or anything.
Right, so that would never work, right? But there's always, hey, my badge isn't working. I think I put it next to my phone or whatever, and talk your way through it.
It's just a high quality badge for cheap, right?
Yeah. It's
nice. That's a good idea.
It's a lot easier to claim you work with the IT department if you've got an employee ID badge.
Most certainly. I remember a talk a while back. I think it was Tinker. I'm not 100% sure, but he was talking about in the point during a pen test, the recon phase, one of the best places is not necessarily the watering hole, but the neighborhood bar. I guess that would be the watering hole. But hanging out at the bar where happy hour is and whatnot, you can obviously find somebody that's got their badge hanging out. Now that we have, 45 megapixel cameras or whatever, it should be fairly easy to take a pretty good snapshot of a company ID badge. So,
yeah, I've had good luck at a Starbucks. Between like 6 and 8. Find the nearest Starbucks to your target, and that usually works pretty well. Man, I had one other thought, but it just like evaporated out of my brain.
Well, and back to the original topic of that we brought up, how has that changed social engineering engagements? Because nobody's at the bars, nobody's at the Starbucks.
Oh yeah.
How are people dealing with social engineering from a social distance perspective and all of these things? Before you had to do the bump, nobody's going to let you get within 6 feet.
Yeah. I'd be curious, has anyone actually had any kind of those gigs? Because I haven't had anything since COVID started. But I've also been on a long-term project doing other stuff, so
I don't
has
think
anyone...
I wouldn't think that, since nobody's going into the office. I mean, I doubt that we're doing a whole lot of drive-bys or piggybacking or anything like that. So I think that there'd be less of that. I'm assuming.
Yeah, right. And less people, just in general, makes it easier to secure them. So
I mean, if you had to, you could use a garage door opener, because those gets probably 3 to 6 feet.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, you have to do the reading is the issue, not necessarily the transmitting. But there was something brought up on Twitter. I can't remember who did, but today a post about going into an industrial park and it just being vacant because of the pandemic, and the need for now increased physical security, because if nobody's there to see you, you have all the time in the world, to do what you need to do and plant what you need to plant. I haven't done any of that since the before times, but I have noticed on internal pen tests that are done remotely, so sending out a box and doing those, it's much more difficult to do man in the middle or any sort of, because there is no local network traffic. It's all from the remote side, so we're not seeing anything to poison.
That's a really good call out, because I'm actually demonstrating a bunch of man in the middle attacks, ARP caching and stuff like that, ARP spoofing, and yeah, that's kind of not. It's not viable anymore, right?
Yeah, if there's nobody on the network, it's kind of difficult to man in the middle.
Huh. And even if they're remote, it's even more difficult because there's no net BIOS to poison, as Wirefall said. If you're just connecting all through VPNs on different networks, right?
Yeah, I would expect probably you're going to be seeing an uptick in spear phishing post-COVID. I think that's really the foot in the door, is no longer through a physical castle and moat, but we got to breach the barrier some way. And I think we've seen consistently the weakest link is the human. So how do we interact with the human when we can't do it physically? I think it's through email.
Absolutely, and the recent one, the one that's going to be hot very quickly, is anything around the with the pandemic related, anything around vaccines.
Oh yeah, and I was just watching the news the other day that scammers are using the pandemic and the availability of vaccines to promote spamming and whatever nefarious acts they have. So I think that's definitely something we need to teach our peers, our parents, and whatnot to be wary of that.
And while that, from a professional perspective, may or may not be, moral, leave that for each individual to decide. I received a smishing fish that was completely immoral. It was for that I had been I'm able to order a PS5. Just click on the link.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like Tickle Me Elmo. That's the hot new thing, right?
I mean, I don't know. If I got an email like that for a 380, I would go through the effort to spin up a VM just to take a look.
Nice.
Well, let me see. I've got that. Do you guys remember a couple months ago when you all helped me for making a presentation?
Yes,
well,
sir.
Anyway, the whole premise of that presentation was staying safe at home in the new normal. So a lot of the topics that we were hoping to cover today, I think, are warranting of revisiting. I think something that we haven't really talked about that really could have helped Hunter Biden would be disk encryption. Just BitLocker is free and available to Windows users. We really should be advocating more people encrypting their hard drives versus just leaving them completely unencrypted. I definitely think in the days of COVID, where we're working at coffee shops and random places instead of our offices, something like that may be something we should prioritize. Thoughts?
Yeah, so I have a question on that because I read somewhere that his password was Hunter02, and I was wondering if anyone has any intel on how legit that is, because that sounds just way too close to the old IRC meme from back in the forever ago.
I haven't heard that personally, but it does sound like I do remember the Hunter meme, so I would say it probably is. But I definitely know for a fact that his device wasn't encrypted, which was that's what allowed the repair person to get in and access the photos. So, anyway.
On that subject, on the Linux side, System 76, if you choose their Pop OS when you order, it can come with pre-installed full disk encryption. It's set up when you initialize the device.
Nice.
Which on Linux is very nice. It's very difficult to not just wipe and install factory, basically Linux. If you want full disk encryption, Pop OS allows you to do that. And I've had to send in different laptops from them for repairs. And if it has nothing to do with the actual OS, like one example was a power port issue, you have no issue with you taking out your hard drive at all. So, it's not like you have to have everything there. It's just all they require is the power cable in your laptop.
Who is this?
System 76, fantastic Linux provider.
Let's see here. I did want to show.
Are you happy with them? Did you reach out and do a trouble ticket with them yet?
Yeah, the one issue I had that I was talking about with the weird, it's completely intermittent. It went away, then it reared its head again for a second, but it's definitely OS related, and it might be Pop OS or it may be the underlying Linux. There's no way to tell, but it was so intermittent I couldn't troubleshoot it. It's gone. The other of the basically crashing since I've updated the OS probably 4 days ago. It hasn't crashed. Otherwise, for those not in the know, it was every day or 2 days. I would come back to my machine and it would just be unresponsive. It would be on but unresponsive. No video, no input, out, whatever. And that was on one of my machines. The other one where I had multiple problems on my previous laptop was the port was very bad design. Had to have it replaced twice. Once in warranty, once out of warranty. But haven't had any issues like that with the new one.
That's good. I was recently bequeathed a machine, and it was good at first, but yeah, you're right. I had operating system issues, much like yourself, and crashing out, and so it's currently collecting dust underneath my desk. So, good times. Anyway, I did want to share with you all some things that I think our peers, our friends, our family, our parents need to be aware of when it comes to social media relative to OPSEC. Because, let's face it, when people are asking you how old you were when you were at your first concert, what's your dog's first name, these sorts of like fun polls are basically password questions. So stay away from that. The other thing is like, I see this way more often than I should, but people posting information that they shouldn't on social media. Like this guy posted his whole driver's license, everything unencrypted, unobscured, anything, obfuscated. Yeah, unobfuscated. And this is the one I think is really appropriate to discuss. When you're traveling, you shouldn't tell people you're on vacation. You shouldn't tell them you're not at home, because it's basically telling them, hey, go rob my house. Also, just be aware of what sort of information you may or may not be leaking in social media. Just even if you're not a friend or you're not following people, you have access to their profile picture and their background. This tells me flat out that chances are they're married. They have a daughter named Piper who plays soccer. You could probably figure out that they're very pro. They probably wear masks. They're probably very pro COVID conscious. Again, that's just all you can pick up from a profile picture. This one probably let's see, a dog with a duck, hunting duck. I'm assuming, probably assuming they're a Trump supporter. Probably a Second Amendment advocate based on what I'm seeing. Again, you can gather a lot just from looking at somebody's profile. This one is plain as day. I wonder how old their daughter Vanessa is, So a lot of information can be disclosed through social media. The only other thing I wanted to showcase to you on social is these. I don't know if you've been seeing any of these recently, but a lot of like farming. These are, groups that are not selling or not giving away an RV. They're not giving away free airline tickets. What they're doing is they're gathering a ton of likes and followers on this one group page and then selling it so they can rename it to something else. So I've seen a lot of people falling for these. Quick confession, I've fallen for one of these. So my question to you all is, how many of you have signed up for RVs? Do you know if are your friends and family aware of these sorts of things?
I would have a question back to you of how closely do you follow the not posting travel pictures?
Me? I do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
But here's the deal: is I actually do follow that to some degree. When my wife and kids are at home and my security system is armed and my wife has her, double barrel, I'm pretty okay to post while I'm on the road. However, when we go on family vacations and nobody is at home, we phase shift our vacation photos. You will not see a vacation photo of us on the road typically until we're already home. So, yes, to some degree, yes, some degree, no.
One of the big things for me on recommending to friends and family that we're talking about on things to do will completely negate those surveys of, what's your favorite movie, what's your favorite, that is, you're using a password safe because we've recommended a password safe. Store your challenge questions there and make them up.
You by far have done that. You've talked about that before, and I agree. Yeah. That is amazing. And you do it even one step further. What is your favorite football team, Wirefall?
I don't have a favorite football team.
I was just going to say it's like QX13.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what it's very difficult though because usually passwords are encrypted. They should be, so that whoever you're dealing with can't ask you your password if you call into customer service. But your challenge questions typically are not, because that's how they verify you. Mm. So yeah, when they ask, what's your mother's middle name, and I go QX''IIRN, and that can be a difficult conversation. She's like, yes, she's Mel Nibian, if you but, yeah.
Well,
is Mel Nibian a thing, or did you make that up as well?
No, Mel Nibian, the Elric saga, Michael Moorcock. If you haven't read that, highly recommend it. Fantasy.
Someone else made it up.
Yeah, can you post a link to that?
I will look it up. Yeah, I'll look it up. Yeah, the Melnibians. All the names in the book are like 20 characters long of just consonants and apostrophes. It's
must be annoying to kind of follow who's who.
Yeah.
What'd you say the name of the series was?
Elric. It's Elric. There's something else about it.
It's been Melniboné, something like that.
Yeah, Melniboné.
Part of the Eternal Champions cycle.
Yep.
Exactly. Never heard of it.
Well, if we're going and recommending fantasy, if anybody has read the King Killers Chronicles or trilogy by Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind, oh my God, one of the best books I've ever read. I highly recommend The Name of the Wind. Imagine like Harry Potter goes to grad school and he's a badass. So, all right. With that said, I've got only one other thing that I wanted to talk about before we pass it off to Octavian. He's going to be talking about a really cool infrastructure framework. I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but let's see, what is it? Try Hack Me is doing a Advent Hack CTF, and Tinker has signed up the Dallas Hackers to be part of the try to work as the CTF as a team. So if anybody's interested in that, I'm gonna get the username and password for our team. But it's built for beginners, so you don't have to feel like you have to be an elite hacker to do this. So I will be posting the username and password in the Discord chat, so we all have it here. With that said, we do have our guest speaker, Octavian, which I'm going to pass the ball to him. Go ahead and share your screen. We'll jump over to your stream. And yeah, I don't know too much about you, Octavian, so feel free to introduce yourself. Where most of us are from Dallas, but not necessarily. So yeah, the floor is yours, my friend.
100%, man. Thanks. That's a great introduction. Yeah, so my name's Octavian, and just a typical Cloud Red teamer. You know, I'm also in Dallas, and I have met you before. You probably know me by face, Wirefall, probably not by handle. But so I'm going to share my screen in a moment. We're going to be talking about this awesome new tool, as you said. Just give me a second. See if it works like this. All right, so can you see my terminal?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, give me 1 second. No luck?
Not seeing it yet. Are you sharing your screen?
It says shares. Well, I'm doing it from Discord. Should I be doing it from Periscope?
No, you should be doing it from Discord.
All right, you know what? Give me 30. I have the app, and I believe it's permissions. 30 seconds. Give me. I'll be right back. Sorry.
No worries. That's the joy of Discord. Let's see here.
The latest and greatest firmware for my version of the Asus router has a guest network that actually gives a separate network address space to whatever's on it, so that it can't get to the main network. It's not just a checkbox that says, "Oh, don't go there."
That's really.
I haven't tried it out. There's also a fine set of folks who are working on alternate firmwares, something like that, and the main guy who runs it actually feeds it back into Asus.
Oh,
so I like it for consumer grade hardware, as much as I know, which is almost nothing. So it's a place to start for the commoners.
Well, you made a really interesting comment about the guest Wi-Fi. I wasn't going to talk about this, but so I have a new puppy, and I'm having to go do like late night pee runs at like 2 a.m. And sometimes I like to go outside and, just get a breath of fresh air in the middle of the night, but I don't like the Ring doorbell sending off alerts and notifications and things like that. So I figured it out how to, I wouldn't say I hacked my Ring doorbell, but by putting the Ring doorbell on my guest Wi-Fi, I'm able to use the app on the phone to disable the guest Wi-Fi. and I can go enter and leave my house without having the cameras detect me. I flip back on the public or the guest Wi-Fi, and bada bing, bada boom, all my IoT devices are back. Nobody knew I left the house. Pretty cool.
Nice. Very nice.
Hey everyone, can you see my screen okay? And can you hear me okay?
Yes, you are now streaming.
Awesome. So, brief introduction. Sorry, did you want to say something?
I was going to say all of Rainmaker's neighbors' Ring doorbells know he left the house.
Oh, that's true. But I don't care about them. I only just don't want my wife to see the notifications. But yes. But go ahead. Go ahead. We're going to be learning about Axiom today.
For sure. Yeah. So if you guys haven't heard of Axiom, in my opinion, this is a game changer. He calls it a dynamic infrastructure framework for everybody. Basically what it does is it heavily uses another tool called Interlace. And I'm not going to really go through each tool, but what basically that does is it just pretty much creates threads. It just easily threads pretty much anything in an odd way. So what this pretty much does is he uses Packer, and he creates a Packer image, and then he saves the image, then deploys it across all, as many instances as you want. So I actually have something a little special for you guys that I just finished. I pre-recorded it.
That's the way to do
it. Yeah. So let's see where we're at here.
I can't
so it is
tell you
10
how many times I've done
10
this.
minutes.
Yeah, but we had those issues at Pwn School. So yeah, good idea.
So I pre-recorded half of it, for multiple reasons. One, I actually did this on the wrong DNS server, and I accidentally sent 6 million DNS requests to the wrong DNS server. But whatever, it's fine. Didn't break it. So this is just, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Project Discovery. They have honestly some of the best tools. It's like Pry calls them the Apple of hacking tools, because they really are the best. Anyway, so this is just their chaos Project Discovery. What it does is it just takes it catalogs all the bug bounty platforms and then does passive subdomain enumeration for all of them, and it's just a source for subdomains. So what you can do is you can just click this little download button here, and it selects all of them. So that's what happened. I downloaded all these subdomains, and these are, because it's done from certificate transparency logs. They're not 100% resolvable. At one point they were, but that doesn't mean that they're always resolvable. A lot of times they kind of come in and out. Give me 1 second. So yeah, sometimes they will, they'll stop resolving after a few months or weeks or whatever. So that's just showing that, it is a big list of subdomains.
Wow.
And this is, okay, let me just let it play. So then I just do an ls, so they're all in all different types of files for all of the bug bounties, right? All the bug bounty programs. This is just a simple thing, just to cat recursively and put them all into another file, all subs. So we have all of these subdomains unresolved in one file. And you can even see it's just endless, right? So right here, there is 6 million, right? So now the beauty happens. This is the module that I'm using called DNSX. I was just checking it to make sure that everything was kind of copacetic before I kick off my scan. Put this like this, right? And then I just run my scan and I start a timer. I'm just going to rewind it. Yeah, so this part I can probably fast forward because it's 10 minutes of just pretty much waiting. So right here is where it actually uploaded it. It's like just uploaded it, right? So it took a little bit just to upload it, and blah, 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 and you can see the timer. So it's pretty much finished in less than 8 minutes. And we'll just kind of skip all of it. Looks beautiful. And then
so you said 6 million records in like 8 to 10 minutes?
Yep, exactly. On the one DNS server that I use, it did it in 5 minutes. But that's because it's like the cloud's normal DNS server.
But you're basically you're threading it through
But
multiple
yeah.
processes rather than just doing it sequentially.
Right. Exactly. So to kind of backtrack a little bit, so you see, like, out of the 6 million, 3.8 million were resolved, and these are just all the IPs. I don't think anyone has really ever done this before. It's really cool, honestly. So just to kind of backtrack, you see all here where it says starting Axiom scan using instances, fire. These are my 25 instances of Axiom, and I can show you that just by doing Axiom ls.
Now, what platform are these running on? I'm assuming I saw it was like DigitalOcean and some of the other cloud providers. Where are these being hosted?
Right. So these are actually being hosted on IBM Cloud. Sorry, I'm just trying to get another test going. Yeah, so these ones are being hosted on IBM Cloud. So there are literally 26 different instances that are hosted, all on IBM Cloud. And it's really cool because the way I set it up, I have another video of just the setup, how it shows how it round robins through different regions, and I could specify any regions I want. So like if in this case, I'll put something like, Dow 13, Dow 14, Dow 09, Dow 10, and it'll just kind of spin one up in each region and then kind of round robin itself. You know what I mean? So I can give it an entire huge list of regions or every data center.
Oh, come on. Let's throw everything in US East 1. I hear there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. I pretty much did do that. So
did you have anything to do with that AWS glitch over Thanksgiving week?
No. Maybe.
Because it's never DNS.
So these are all the resolved FQDNs, right? So I'm not going to look at them because it's just ridiculous. I'm going to in the way. Okay. Slippery today. All right, so these are all the IPs. I'm going to. I think I have a command. Just. All right. So these are all of the IPs. I guess 500,000 IPs. I really can't scan all of these because it's not going to be kind of adequate for this video. But I will take a nice 5,000 of them, let's say. I'm not sure if this is going to actually complete in a normal time, but it should. It really should. So this is doing an Axiom one-shot scan, which is really something kind of special. It uses it. We actually sped up, and by we I mean Pride. And actually, I think this is going to break. Oh, okay, never mind. It's not going to break. Pride has honestly sped up Nmap, and I know that's kind of ridiculous to say. Like, how can you actually do that? Yada yada. But I think he really did speed up Nmap. Hopefully, this works so I can actually show you 100%. But what he does is he uses interlace in order to scan, in order to create 30 Nmap processes at the same time, and just scans one IP. And it is really comparable to a solid scan. Comparable to just, making it quicker. Because of weird kind of quirks inside of Nmap, like if you do TAC SV, it doesn't do parallel as well as it should. It doesn't actually do it at all. So, this kind of adds, the TAC SV scan, which is service version scans, to parallelism. And you can see the results already coming back. Wow. I did 3,000. And I really love this, status bar. So in the background, all the 25 scanners, each one will consistently have 30 Nmap processes running at one time and scanning one IP. And then it'll just finish. And that's all run with interlace. I mean, this thing just really heavily relies on interlace and Pry's creative genius. I mean, it's the simplest, it's all in Bash too. I mean, the interlace commands are clearly in Bash, right? There's obviously some, other programs that he installed, but everything is, I mean, if you just look at the code, it's all Bash. So
that's really awesome.
Modules. So these are the different modules that they're currently supported, and we're adding more, like, honestly, like every other day. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys do any screenshots at all, but distributed Go Witness is freaking beautiful. I mean, it just takes it and it loves it, man. I mean, imagine distributing, and this is what I do every day. I'll take like 100K IP port combinations, run them through HTTPX, and then grab, like, if it's HTTP or HTTPS, it'll append it to the beginning, and then just take, hundreds of thousands of URLs and just run them through Go Witness, distributed. So you can even do distributed nuclei, if you guys, I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but nuclei is an awesome tool, also made by Project Discovery. We're still working, our DNS gen actually does work, so that's awesome. Distributed fluff, or fluff, FFUF, whatever. FF, I call it fluff. But I don't know if you guys have ever heard FFUF. It is just a really fast HTTP fuzzer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's to show you some of the code. Oh, and he has these playbooks now, and this is all pretty new. The playbooks are basically new. I wonder what the hell's happening. Oh, maybe just because. Maybe they didn't. I slammed their DNS server with 6 million requests like 20 minutes ago. But if we go to, like, modules, interact. Yeah, I guess I'm just showing you that it's all in Bash and kind of what it's doing in the back.
Yeah.
And so it also merges the files as well. So you see, like, after it'll call this merge function and then merge it depending on the extension. I just want to show you the real kind of neat scan. Actually, let's show you the one shot, because one shot is pretty awesome. Right. Okay. So this is basically what it's doing through SSH. It's calling interlace, right? It's creating how many threads, which would be 30 for each box, passing in the SSH config, and then it's wrapping it around Axiom exec, which is just like execute anything on the box. And then, so this is actually the command. So it'll put the command, like the nmap command, and then it uses this proxy, which is actually the Axiom instance. So you can see, or one of the cloud hosted instances. So you see how, like, it's really heavily relying on interlace. And I mean, interlace is such a great tool. And this should even work. So I probably shouldn't wait. It's only a 15-minute talk, but I think this should even work. I should be able to Control C out of that. Let's see if it still runs my cleanup script. Let's see if it's still. No. Oh, right. The merging doesn't really work as well as we want right now because it's a one-shot scan. Actually, do it. Let's actually make this simpler, so we can actually get some cool results, and I can show you how distributed Go Witness works. So this is just Nmap without Nmap X, so it's not the one-shot mode. This just uses interlace the same way, but it doesn't do one at a time. It does it, I think, in host groups of like 30 or 60 something. It might take a little bit longer to run. Fix this merge there. And this shouldn't be, but yeah. Okay. I know that's one thing I wanted to fix.
No worries.
Yeah. I want to be able to see if I can show you guys distributed Go Witness. You know what I can probably do, actually? You know what? I'm just going to do this, actually. All right, so have a little something. So you see, even though I controlled C out of it, it's still, it just catches the interrupt and then just runs a cleanup script. But it still did not add it because it didn't finish a host group, right? So, all right, no worries. I'm just trying to move as quick as possible here. So we'll do something like this. Let's just do Go Witness.
Just curious, what software did you use to do your session recording?
So this is not a record session anymore.
No, I know. I was referring to your previous one because I liked how you had the stopwatch and everything.
So the stopwatch was honestly I think it's just Linux app get install stopwatch, right? I just heard about it today. And then I just used QuickTime, honestly, on the host computer.
I'm doing a whole lot of command line recordings, and that's painful.
Yeah, you know what? I was just looking up some awesome tools for that. Definitely like ASCII cast, I think is one of them. Script is also a decent one, but there was one more that I saw that really had like it, recorded the output really nicely. But
what was that, ASCII cast? Good. All right.
I think or I'm sorry, ASCII Mimo, or however you pronounce that. ASCII Mimo. This one right here.
I've been messing around with Voco Screen NG.
What was that called?
This is cool.
EVOKO Screen NG.
All right.
Just played around a little bit with it, but so far it's on Linux. Yeah.
I've been using for Windows Camtasia, and I recently got a Creative Suite license, and it is badass. I love it, love it, love it.
Nice. So yeah, you could just see this thing, monstrous power.
It's crunching.
And I mean, it really does distribution really well. It's pretty simple. We're gonna probably move to a pull method. Currently, everything's using a push method, so it basically just SSHs. It splits up the file, takes whatever list you have, splits it up into equal parts, depending on how many instances you have, and then just goes in SSHs into each one and uploads the list. Actually does it with rsync, but it's super simple. It just splits up the list. But soon we're going to move to, or maybe not soon, but sooner or later we're going to move to a polling system where you can just deploy nodes pretty much anywhere, and then as long as they can reach the server, then they can pull down target lists.
Now, curious about the nodes themselves. You mentioned you put these up on IBM Cloud. Is there abilities to deploy them to multiple platforms or just one? So
you mean like cloud platforms?
Yeah, like can you throw 12 on AWS and 12 on GCP? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, you definitely can. You can control them all with your fleet. Just so you would choose Axiom select, and then after you would provision them, you can just control them all with your fleet, or what you would do actually in this case, you would switch the account. So right now I have, I'm using accounts, I think FireTalks, but I don't want to click enter yet right now because it'll kind of revalidate, but you would be able to switch accounts right now between DigitalOcean and IBM. And you can kind of run separate, you can control the fleets in different ways.
I know
there's
you
not
said
real one way.
That's introduction or opportunity to make a bad Twitter joke about their new fleet service.
Right? Hey man, we had fleets before them.
I mean, I've heard of chat ops before. I mean, if you could control Axiom via your fleets, I mean, that would actually be pretty badass.
Right? We're actually working on something we already have it, but it runs nuclei and then automatically sends you like criticals and whatever you want, criticals, highs, mediums to what's it called? The reason Telegram. Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah. Like and you can control it from there. Like we have a nice Telegram bot where you can just add a subdomain and it'll immediately go through some older playbooks. But speaking of playbooks, these things are pretty crazy. Let me tell you. So like HTTP URLs. So he's made it so you can just chain these binaries together, and it follows the input file, and it kind of knows if like DNSX is actually on the server or if it needs to be done locally. Like if the processing power wouldn't be too difficult. Like if you put like cat, it would do it locally, I believe. But it's only certain things. If the module exists in this command line, then it will fetch it from the remote. It'll push the job kind of to the remote instance. So in this way, you can chain all these commands together. So we're trying to find a way. I don't know if you guys seen like from Bug Bounty Tips, but like those really cool one-liners. So we're trying to find a way you can just kind of put easily make those and put them into Axiom and distribute it. Yeah, so you cat input, put into subfinder, subgen, and then mass DNS. And these things are really powerful too. Let's see what this one does. Yep, this is just DNS and then puts it into Nmap. So I should be able to just cancel this. And then once it downloads,
Rating for that. Also, one of the more impressive things from the Pwn school that I picked up was when you were doing it with DigitalOcean, for one of these incredibly large scans, how much does it cost you?
Oh, I mean, because we can spin up fleets in a matter of moments and then spin them right down in like, an hour, it's close. It's honestly, like, if you're smart, it's close to not much at all. Some of these things cost like 10 cents an hour. So if you have 25 boxes, I mean, for 1 hour, pretty cost effective,
That's fantastic. I recently stood up a single box in Azure, and along with all the security settings that I had to set up, just the monthly cost was around $300.
Oh,
yeah, it was a little stupid, but luckily I could expense it. We're testing this new entitlements manager that's cross-platform. So I had to have an Azure, AWS, and a GCP stack all simultaneously running with. It's kind of funny. I purposely set it up with misconfigured roles and permissions so that the tool could alert on it. So I was purposely setting up a vulnerable cloud platform. It was kind of interesting. While this is running, Octavian, it sounds like you do a lot of cloud penetration testing. Is that right?
Yep, exactly.
Question for you, then, in particular.
Sure.
What sort of controls do you see in securing the IMS of these different cloud platforms? Do you know, of a way that we can lock that down? Or, once you've got access to the box, you've got access to the IMS, right?
Right, yeah. The only way to do that is to scope. If you have tokens on the box, you mean?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, if you have tokens on the box, then obviously it's the best to just kind of keep them scoped to a minimum, right? But you know what? I really like these new tools. Like IBM actually just bought it. It was called Spinugo before, but they're incorporating it into their compliance software. And it's pretty simple. It basically, it's a few Docker, it's like one Docker container and it's two Docker containers because the one watches the other to make sure it like gets updated and all that yada yada. But you just deploy the Docker container on every subnet, and then you give it credentials. And it never keeps the credentials in memory in the Docker container, but you give it the credentials for the other network devices. And then what it'll do is it'll log into those other devices and then compare the state of the device against a YAML, and that YAML is defines the compliance state that you want to reach or trying to reach. So if you see where I'm going with this, it's just a way to kind of automatically en masse ensure compliance, and it's pretty cool. It also will like scan the local network and identify you of live assets or rogue assets or new assets. But I really like the way. Yeah, it's really powerful. It was called Spanugo, but they recently bought it. And yeah, these are just the dozens and dozens and dozens of screenshots. I mean, this thing is so powerful. Look how fast that was. That was immediately so quick, right?
And it's taking screenshots of all those different sites that you were pulling.
Right. Yeah. I just put the IPs because I needed just a big list of URLs. I just put the IPs, or 5,000 of the IPs, and I just took screenshots of the IPs. So, I mean, if we wanted to, we could, like totally make this quicker.
I forget the service, but there's a print screen service that basically uploads to a public-facing website with this like 4-character string. You could just enumerate that string and basically take snapshots of the entire website. I mean, all screen the shots that they have if you use something like this in a matter of minutes.
Say that one more time.
So I forget the name of the service, but it's like printscreen.nl or something like that. I don't even know. But basically, they provide you this short URL like prnt.ly/ABCD. And so you could do ABCD, ABCD1, ABCD2, and enumerate that. That way you can take screenshots of every single one of their photographs.
Right. You can get screenshots of their screenshots.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They're not that private.
Right. I mean, so this is kind of reminded me of that. I mean, you could literally build that type of service with this tool. I don't know if you guys have heard of Witness Me, but basically it's inspired by Eyewitness, and it uses Puppeteer and Chromeless and Headless Chrome in order to take screenshots, and it just hangs on. It has an API, and you can just literally throw a bunch of URLs at it, and it'll systematically just take screenshots. It's great if you probably want like a standalone box, but honestly, if I was going to build a tool like that for screenshots, I would probably do it with Axiom because it just scales much more.
Exactly. Well, this Axiom framework is badass. I will give you that. This is extremely scalable, powerful, low on cost. I mean, I'm just seeing what you're doing with this so far is really impressive.
Thanks, man. Thanks. And I don't think I have this ports tool, but if you guys, if you want, I could. Let's see this. Cool. Well, I don't know if probably shouldn't take any more time up. I wanted to maybe show one more tool.
Yeah, go for it.
We've got time.
I don't think we've got much left to discuss unless somebody else has something they want to open the floor to. So, I mean, take as much time as you'd like to show your tool here.
Absolutely. One more subject, but it's very short. So, yeah.
Sure. If you want to. Okay. So, do you want to do that now, or should? Okay. Or just give me.
Why don't you show the tool real quick, and then we'll use Wirefall to kind of conclude today.
Sure. Sounds good, guys. What is this? Damn. So this is just a simple script just to give me, parses the IPs and ports out of that file, and then we'll just call it. It just parses the IPs and ports out of the Nmap scan that you saw just finished. That was 5,000 IPs. It was nothing. I mean, it blew through that and nothing. Like this tool really is freaking a game changer, man. All right, so now, and this is obviously just like a slowed down version, or rather, it's not it's only 5,000 IPs. It's not the entire chaos. But I love this tool, HTTPX. It just basically runs through all of them and then runs through all the IP and port combinations. It first tests to see if it could be an HTTPS port. If it's an HTTPS service, then it just goes to the next one. If it's not, it tests if it's HTTP. If it's not, then it just disregards it. So it's just a simple way to find HTTP services out of all IPs and ports. And it's really, really helpful. You can actually
through all IPs. I mean, through all ports, not just 80 and 110 or whatever.
So I have a I stick by this hardcore where if you're trying to find so I do TAC-P-TAC generally. I don't know if you guys know that, but I scan all 65535 ports. and I do service version enumeration on all of them. So
Wow.
Axiom, or not Axiom, Nmap will get kind of confused, and it won't identify all HTTP services. I've seen it thousands of times where it says, it'll be like SSL unknown, but it's actually an HTTP service. So what I do is I always take all of my the IPs and the ports out of out of the Nmaps scan, and grab all of them and put them next to each other, and then run them through HTTPX. So you can definitely make sure that it is or is not an HTTP port or not, because you can't always trust Nmap, or you can't always trust that the port that it's on is an actual HTTP port.
Trust but verify. I get it.
Yeah. Do you see the same thing even using -- version all?
That's a good question. I will check that. I bet it'll be the case, though. Nmap has been really kind of lackadaisical on some of their fingerprinting. I mean, I guess it can be difficult when it's all free and stuff, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I love it. I literally use Nmap all day. But I've noticed that their fingerprinting is kind of lacking. Like, I mean, it won't even identify a Kubernetes. It won't even say, hey, this is Kubernetes, Like, this is a Kubernetes API. It'll call it a Golang API, which technically is like the background software. But I mean, it should notice, like.
Well, that's just proper signature verification rather than, anything else, right? I mean, just tagging the right stack.
I think it's so much slower to do the -- version all. I think it's probably doing a quick triage versus, the full assessment of the port.
Yeah, that I have done version all before, and I've still noticed these HTTP ports that won't reflect accurately. But I will definitely check that out, because here's the thing. I mean, it'll say unknown, right? I mean, there's other times where it'll say HTTP, but it doesn't know what it was. It doesn't know what it is, but it'll just say unknown. So
well,
I don't know. But you make a really good point. I'm totally going to do that, because if that's the case, then I'll just ask them to bump up some of the signatures, be like, yo, you guys are missing, because if they actually have the signatures in there, that'd be great. So I guess that's pretty much all I had. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
You showed us some amazing cool stuff.
thing.
Yeah, go ahead. By the way, we expect you to be here every month after this. You've been a great asset to the event today.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks, man. My pleasure. This is a feature I am super excited about, Axiom Proxy. So take all of those 25 boxes, and unfortunately I don't really have it totally set up because I don't have burp set up. I guess I think what do we expect. Oh, okay. Well, I won't be able to set it up today.
No worries.
But this thing, I mean, it's probably just because I don't have Docker installed. Honestly, that must be the reason that actually, that's certainly the reason. So what Axiom Proxy does is it takes those beautiful 20, or however your size of your fleet, and then creates a HTTP, or rather an HA proxy load balancer across all of them. And then what you do is you point your upstream burp proxy to your main box, to one box. It has to be a cloud hosted box, or actually in this case it would just be my local box. And then every request I make in burp is you get a different IP, right? So like I can even just do it where it's like if I go to burp or if I just refresh the browser, if I go to like ipinfo.com or ifconfig.me, and if I just refresh the browser, it'll just come from a different IP every single time. So it's a way that you can distribute burp, right? Because then you can run like crazy burp crawls across however big you want, and it distributes the load.
That's really cool.
That's that feature I am super excited about. I just don't have Docker installed. But yeah,
well, no worries. Next time we'll want to see it with the Docker installed. Octavian, this was fantastic. Axiom seems like a really awesome tool, and it's funny that you wanted to come and talk about that product, because that's also a client of mine, not the actual Axiom product. That's Pyrox, baby. But I've worked with companies called Axiom, and I was worried you were going to talk about them. So I'm glad it was a completely different product.
Me too, man. whoever they are, definitely probably not as cool as this Axiom.
Oh no, I won't go into details, but oh man, it's bad. It's really bad. But anyway, I digress. So thank you again. Appreciate you showing us these tools. I'm gonna bounce out of your screen share.
Yep.
And pass
Thanks,
this
guys.
back. Wirefall. You mentioned that you had something that you wanted to quickly discuss.
Well, yeah, that it hadn't been brought up before on the call. Just posted the link. Ian Beer, which is probably the best name I've ever heard from Google Project Zero, about the iOS 0 day, 0-click wireless, so anything within Wi-Fi range. Freaking amazing. This blog is like the how-to post a blog about an exploit. It's freaking amazing.
So
that exploit is probably one of the coolest things.
I saw this post today, and I was like, man, should we talk about this or not? And I'm so glad you brought this up. This is straight up crazy, folks. If you haven't seen this video, it's like 10, 15 seconds of just like click, 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 poning all these different these phones.
And it was I
think we lost him.
Yeah, I think we lost you, Wirefall.
Oh, am I back? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a weird. It popped up closed screen. It was. I think patched in May, the May updates, but make sure you're updated. This is freaking scary.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably some of the coolest research, and just the effect of it, right, is probably one of the coolest exploits I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, that is next level awesomeness for sure. Thanks
So
for bringing that up.
basically, it's just running arbitrary code on any iOS device. So that's pretty impressive.
It's all around AWDL, the protocol which allows the Dropbox kind of sharing kind of thing, which he said is amazing. And this is awesome and should be, a capability that these devices have. But it should be secure code, and it's not.
Well, on that same note, I mean, I was really big into the Eddystone beacons, those BLE Bluetooth beacons. And that was a technology that, could have been amazing, but you're right. I mean, they didn't secure it. It's been end of life, and nothing supports BLE beaconing anymore. So, if you're going to do something like this, it needs to be secure out of the gate. Otherwise, you'll have shit like this.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for bringing that one up. And if there's any other InfoSec-related news that you want to introduce, you want to talk about, do your homework, folks. Copy and paste a couple of stories you want to bring up, and we'll definitely discuss them.
I definitely like the idea, having some pre-established stories for the next month. So we can come prepared and talk intelligently, but then also the, spontaneity of having the talks we have as Fire Talks. So.
What do you guys want to talk about next month? Is there a particular topic or a discussion thing that we want to cover? Or do we want to just address maybe something closer in the current events?
I think we should post in the chat, as like the month goes on, about, something that might seem really interesting, and then we can kind of, see how that goes.
Absolutely. I'll keep the Discord chat open. I usually refresh it and reset it after every couple of days, but I'll keep it going for a while so we can kind of keep an ongoing discussion about what we may want to talk about. But go ahead.
How about projections for 2021? I mean, we always have lists. What's going to be important in 2021, because nobody had 2020 on their list.
No.
Dinosaurs. It's going to be dinosaurs.
Yeah, let me change my webcam. This is my 2020 webcam look. So, or 2021. This is did you hear they're starting to like revive plants from like the Jurassic era?
What did I just say?
Exactly. Dinosaurs, buddy. Dinosaurs.
It's not just plants either. They found a virus that they started doing that same thing with.
Viruses
Why?
of all times
Yes.
is now the time to be fucking around with viruses.
I think it was it Australia or New Zealand? They just found a full claw from a bird that's been not in existence since like 800 years ago, full with flesh and everything. Crazy.
That is.
So that means you're going to put it in the smoker?
I will. I absolutely will.
Aged for perfection, you know?
Yeah. Dry aged. It was in the bottom of a cave. Dry aged. Yeah.
Oh, dear. Well,
I
folks.
got a question. Does,
Yeah.
does anyone here know anything about like AI? You know, if anyone's like kind of proficient in AI, maybe we can talk about, you know, how AI is going to be affecting pen testing. And
I know a little bit about OS.
If it's machine learning, then it's probably Python or R.
you're right.
If it's AI, then it's absolutely PowerPoint.
I was talking about organic stupidity.
I had the
That's hilarious.
great opportunity. I had the great opportunity to join B-Sides from my garage this year while I was installing a new garage door opener. And I found Pesto's presentation on that to be fascinating. It slowed down my work immensely. But he did some serious thinking about it. And I found myself just sitting there with tools in my hand going,
Well, I actually have a buddy of mine who left my company that I'm currently with and went to a new organization doing AI-driven pen testing, which I find kind of ironic because I can consider that vulnerability scanning. But I'd be curious to hear his take on how AI is affecting pen testing. Maybe have him on the show and we can tear him a new one.
Are you willing to share the company? Because we had a recent presentation at Day Job from a company claiming AI kind of stuff, and it was just,
Give me about 10 seconds. Let me look the guy up on LinkedIn, and yes, I can tell you real quick.
I'm telling you, AI is no match for OS.
What was that Pesto's presentation? What was that? For the AI presentation, that I forget. I don't know who was the one who said it.
it was something. It was something like who's driving, and he was talking about how you evaluate the security of AI and things like that, because it'll, depending on how you set it up, it will leak its data set, and you can also poison it by slowly introducing different data and manipulating it. So you can actually get, how do you do security work on AI and ML? You can, it was fascinating. It was really fascinating because, you know, he actually did some deep thinking on what you need to do to protect yourself and your IP from leaking out through the API that you have to put out there so it works.
Well, and one of my favorites was a Microsoft study on AI and bad data, basically how that it affects it. And it was looking at medical situations and how to triage patients coming into emergency rooms.
That's so cool.
And it said the people who should be triaged last were those who had asthma. Which makes no sense, right? If you think about it, it makes no sense. So you're like, oh, well, what insights are they seeing? Well, it's because the data reflected that people who come into a emergency room and have asthma are triaged first, and they get out quickly because they were properly triaged. So it said, oh, these people don't have any response time. They're in and out quickly. They should be triaged last, which would mean they would die.
Yeah,
Right.
the logic's
That's
wrong.
crazy.
Yeah.
Those little edge conditions that just didn't know what to do with it, or just didn't even know. See, that's all about the data sets. You know, you gotta make sure you put the right data sets.
Yeah, and that's
data?
unbiased data sets. But the data sets we have are totally biased. So I mean, it's difficult. Yeah.
And
Waterfall, I
what he was
tossed
talking about.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say what your mask first was talking about actually securing AI. I mean, just him in a few sentences really got me thinking. And it's like, how the hell could you actually do that and ensure that it's secure? Like, you can't even, some of these checks, they probably haven't even been conceived of, or not.
Well,
if they have, they're not easy frameworks.
Did any of y'all attend DEF CON, was it 25, where they had the DARPA challenge? Where
between the two. Yeah.
It was insanity. It was these two, mainframes were going at each other, attacking and defending using AI to create exploits and defense on the fly. I mean, I imagine that's going to be a tactic for defenders and adversaries as well in the years to come, if not already.
They say we're all going to be out of a job in like 20 years, that AI is going to really take over. I mean, because right now the government's immediately classifying most of that stuff, right? They fund research projects and just immediately classify it. I couldn't like that, all that DARPA stuff. But once that gets into like the open domain, I mean, imagine if we're able to actually have our hands on those tools. I mean, that would be ridiculous to just have an AI automatically pen test and find vulnerabilities.
Well, there will always be a need for human elements because, again, if our humans are our weakest link, how can you test that without a human?
Right. Yeah. No, I totally believe it. I know what you're saying. I feel for you for sure. I believe that as well.
And I just saw in the chat the CISIS. That was exactly who presented to us. And one of their cornerstones was that they have never ever produced a network issue, any sort of issue in a client network. They've never caused a problem.
So that's not ever a pen test.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Well,
hey, we should definitely have him on then to really tear him a new asshole.
Hell yeah, let's do it. I'll invite Martang on and we can just have him kind of talk through his product. I know he's fairly new to the org, but I mean, it'd be interesting to learn about how AI is being attributed to pen testing. I mean, if anything, I can see it being as a cursory, the first sweep, but I don't think...
Absolutely. Give me the information I might be interested in looking at.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I don't think that you should fully rely on that by any measure. All right. Well, we've gone an hour and a half today. Are there any other topics that we want to cover before we kind of conclude for the month? 3, 2, 1. Going.
Thank you as always for putting this on, Rainmaker.
Oh, absolutely. I wish we could. I wish we wouldn't be putting this on. Honestly, Wirefall.
No, you would be putting it on a different day, but you'd still be putting it on.
Oh, of course. We'll eventually be doing this again at some other date and time. But until DHA is back in person, we'll be continuing to do this the first Wednesday of every month from 7 o'clock till whenever. With that said, we've got a thank you all for attending. Rex, I see you're dialed in a little late. It's good to see you, buddy. But anyway, with that said, peace out. Have a great rest of your month, and we'll see you in January 2021. Let's hope we're all still alive.